Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Vishnu Prastaya Guru Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Kinana Namaste Sarasate Deve Goga Panditacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasadacharani Sphani Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananana Shalakaya Shakti I'm very happy to be here on this day, especially on Balaram's appearance day, because there's something of a relationship with Lord Balaram in Philadelphia. After my first year in graduate school, I was living in Germantown, down the road a little ways. Cheap place to live as a graduate student in religious studies. And I had a course in Hinduism in the university, which was actually taught by Swami Nikalananda, who ran the Ramakrishna mission in New York City. But he was an academic also. He translated all the Upanishads and everything, and so he was teaching, coming down 3 times a week from New York City to teach at Temple University. Had one of the very first academic study of religion departments that were just starting there. So I had my Hinduism course was basically the Ramakrishna mission version of Bhaktivedanta. And that was like standard Hinduism, as far as most people knew. They found out sooner than that was really the case, but in a few years. But anyway, that's what they thought. Anyway, I was very interested in that course. That summer, went to the West Coast to Oregon. My wife's family. I had a job in a tin can factory where we made tin cans, a summer job. Hellish. Bob would say the factory was another name for hell, a hellish factory. But I was trying to practice karma yoga as taught by Swami Nikalananda, trying to become one with the work, merge into the work. To take karma yoga is you give results to God. Well, if you put it in your own pocket, you're giving it to God. So that understanding was not open to them. So somehow you had to sort of just do the work for its own sake and become one with it. It was hellish. You had to wear these special ear things to come in. I was trying to explain to my wife, when I was doing it, she's afraid I was going to fall into the machine or merging into work. Anyway, at the end of the summer, we went up to Portland, Oregon, and there was a brand new import house, maybe a Pier 1 one in the early months or something. And I had a little bit of money to spend. And that's where I got Lord Balaram. I saw this big box. And there were these little figures inside about this big, and some were white, and some were black, and some were yellow. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know they were from India, but they were intriguing. They seemed like childlike and wise at the same time. I couldn't take my eyes off of them. I looked at the price tag on the bottom. I had money for only one. So I went through some mental process and brought Lord Balaram home for me. I took him home. Stuck him over my desk. A couple of 3 more years passed. And he was up there. And then Hare Krishna devotees showed up in Philadelphia. Anyway, it's a long story, but I ended up, one of the first temples was down in West Philadelphia, outside the University of Pennsylvania. I went to the temple there. I think I started to chant Hare Krishna. See what would happen. And it was starting to change things. So I was kind of, devotees were very, very weird. Really weird. On purpose weird, also. Because this was, after all, the early 70s. Everybody was trying to be far out. And the Hare Krishna devotees won the far out contest big time. And so anyway, they were into it. But so I was intrigued by the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. I really liked it. I was looking for a sign, something to let me know what I should really do. And then they had just a Panchatattva painting on the altar, the bay window. Then one day when I'm thinking these things, I go to the temple and for the Sunday feast, and I'm chanting and I'm looking around. Then I noticed that over the Panchatattva painting between the sides of the bay window there was a plank. And on the plank there were two figures, this high, not this high, and one was black and one was white, and the white one was the same guy I had at home. So you're looking for a sign, there was something that was like as subtle as a sock in the face, whoa, so then I was really they were standing on me. So I sat down. As soon as I had a chance, I asked the temple president, the Subal, later Subal Maharaj, who were those figures over the altar? Really what they were doing was imitating San Francisco Temple, which had a Panchatattva painting and a plank over it, and they had big Jagannath deities. So somehow or other they had these small, but they were missing Subhadra. They only had Balaram and Krishna, but they put them up there. So I asked who are these figures, and he said, well, the black one is Krishna. And he said, the white one is Balaram. That's his older brother in his first expansion. And I said, well, he's Krishna too? He said, yeah, he's God too. I said, now I don't know what to do because I have him. I have him at home. Now, I was thinking he was going to say, you can't have him. Because they were really in the mood of chastisement in those days, You would blow out a candle. Don't blow out the candle. The mouth is the dirtiest part of your body, don't you know? You look in the kitchen. Don't look in the kitchen. Things are being offered. They were kind of harsh that way. Stepped outside one day and there was this beautiful sunset. I said, oh, what a beautiful sunset. And the devotee lady next to me said, and it's not a beautiful sunset, it's horrible. And if you think it's beautiful, you'll just have to take birth again in order to enjoy it. That was the way they were in those days. So I said, I have one. What do I do? And I was afraid he was going to say, you can't have him. But he didn't miss a beat. I said, what do I do? And he said, worship him. I was so relieved. So that's what I did. When I got home, I wiped off the dust that had gathered sitting over my desk. It was okay. And then I noticed that the little black paints had made the pupils of his eyes, they had flaked off. And I knew exactly what it was. He hadn't wanted to look at all my sinful activities and he closed his eyes. So I got a little black magic marker. I opened his eyes and I moved him into a better place in the living room and made a little cloth beneath him and offered food to him and chanted japa for him. That's what Balaram, I sort of think of him as bringing me to the movement. And then these deities came here sort of on their own accord too. They were originally carved for the New York temple. And they found out they were going to get big jobbing. The big ride Krishna deities are too big for the altar. But I went up to New York and we went to the bug and they said, those deities are now for Philadelphia. But they're Philadelphia. I wasn't the temple president then, I was just a devotee. I was living in the temple. I was just going to get a case of BTG magazines. He said, yeah, so you could take them. So there was going to be a charge, but I just took them. Put down the back seat, the old VW bus buggy that you could lay down the back seat, they had a flat. We all sat there, sent my children and wife and children home on the train and drove them temple in Germantown. That's how we got them. And then a year later, we had the first Rath Yatra on the East Coast. Anyway, that's the little history of what happened here. So I'm very, Balaram is very, very merciful. Lord Jagannath is merciful. Balaram is even more merciful. Here in Bhagavatam 1:14-29, there's a verse, Ramo Bhagavan Sattvatam Prabhu. Rama, that's Balaram, is Rama. It's one of the, there's many Ramas. Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra, that's Rama. And then there's a Balarama, is Rama. There's also Parashurama. A number of Ramas. And actually Krishna's Rama too, he's Radhika Rama. Here, this Rama, we're talking about Balaram. Ramo, Bhagavan Sattvatam, is the protector of the devotees. This Prabhupada translates as Sattvatam Prabhu, the protector of the devotees. And Prabhupada writes here, among various names of the relatives, the name of Rama or Balarama, eldest brother of Lord Krishna, is added with the words, the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Because Lord Balaram is the immediate expansion of Vishnu Tattva as Prakasha, Vigraha of Lord Krishna. Sri Ram or Balaram is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. Baladev acts as the spiritual master of all devotees. So he's referred to a number of times in our literature as the original spiritual master. As Baladev acts as the spiritual master of all devotees, and by his causeless mercy, the fallen souls are delivered. Sri Baladev appeared as Sri Nityananda Prabhu during the advent of Lord Chaitanya. So like if you study Nityananda, you can also understand about Balaram. A more earthy, funnier, and peculiar expression of the Lord. Sri Baladev appeared as Sri Nityananda Prabhu during the advent of Lord Chaitanya, and the great Lord Nityananda exhibited his causeless mercy by delivering a pair of extremely fallen souls, namely Jagai and Madhai. Lord Chaitanya said, I can't even deliver these, but you can. Nityananda. And so is Nityananda. Therefore, it is particularly mentioned here that Balaram is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. By his divine grace only, one can approach the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And thus Sri Balaram is the mercy incarnation of the Lord, manifest as the spiritual master, the savior of the pure devotees. That's a very nice statement by Srila Prabhupada, just calling Ramo Bhagavan Sattvatam Prabhu. Find about here. And then there's, I don't know if you know the prana mantras for Lord Balaram. You can find them in, well, they're in the Veda base. They're printed in the Pancharachika Pradeepa on deity worship. It's published. These are his prana mantras. Namaste Halagraha, Namaste Nishalai Yukha, Namaste Revatikanta, Namaste Bhakta Vatsala, Namaste Harini Dhara, Namaste Balaram Shrestha, Balambari Namaste Idimam Krishna Purusha. So it's offering obeisance, Namaste, and then his name Halagra, beholder of the plow. The two pastimes with Krishna, they were like Vaishya boys. Vaishya and Krishi Goraksha. So Goraksha is particularly Lord Krishna, the protector of the cows, herder of cows, and Balaram the plow, the Krishi, the planting of seeds, agriculture. That side of the and so he has a halagraha. But the halagraha is also a variation of it, is as a weapon of war. Plow-like weapon. Because they're Kshatriyas really. So he had this. But then he's also Namaste Nushala Yudha, the wielder of the mace, the battle mace, the weapon. He taught Duryodhana. He was Duryodhana's teacher for this weapon, the battle mace, big club. In fact, I have a godmother named Duryodhana Guru, name of Balaram, the Guru of Duryodhana. He's one of these people you want to say his whole name, well, not just the short version, Duryodhana, but Duryodhana Guru. Duryodhana was sort of a bad guy. Then Namaste Revati Kanta, the darling of Revati. And Namaste Bhakta Vatsala, and the benefactor of the devotees. Namaste Dharani Dhara, the uplifter or upholder of the earth. But it says he's the force of gravity that holds everything up. Because his expansions go to Ananta Shesha, Sheshanaga. These are all expansions of Balaram. So they are down in the underworld. You know, Krishna is at the Vedic universe. Krishna is at the top and Krishna is at the bottom. So he's at this Dharani Dhara. And Namaste Balaram Shrestha, the best of the strong. Pralambare, the enemy of Pralamba. Pralamba Sura in Vrindavan, that was the first demon that Balaram killed. Pralamba Sura, because when they were hiding out from Kamsa, back in the back of beyond, in a little agricultural Calverdian village, Kamsa was looking to kill them. He had the prophecy to his sons, the son of the Nanda is going to kill you. And so he was looking to kill them. And so was sending various shape-shifting demons out into the, look for them and find them. So one of them was this Pralamba. So he came, and they were going out herding the cows, and one of the boys had to stay back for some reason. So Pralamba took his form and was playing along with him. And they were playing a game where they were fighting with each other, and the victor got carried on the shoulder of the loser. So Balaram ended up on the shoulder of this boy, who then revealed his form as Pralambasura. And so Balaram sat on a big, huge demonic guy, beat him up from the top, killed him. So he's the enemy of Pralamba. There are demons in Vrindavan. Some of them are killed by Balaram, and some of them are killed by Krishna. I was looking for the list. I'm going to find this. I couldn't find it. But somewhere Bhaktivinoda Thakur lists the different. See, because each of those demons also exemplifies an anartha, some unwanted thing in the devotee's heart that we want to get clear from. And I remember Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that I just read it recently, that the devotees, that the demons that are killed by Balaram are the anarthas, symbolize or indicate the anarthas that devotees themselves have to work to get rid of. And the ones that Krishna kills, then Krishna comes and takes care of the rest. What he said. So I was trying to, but I couldn't find out where the list was that Bhaktivinoda Thakur made of which or which. Anyway, I remember. So this is Pralamba Sura as one of them. And then it says, Pralambare namaste stu ehimam Krishna Purvaja. Please come to me. Please be before me. And then Purvaja means born before, Krishna Purvaja. Krishna is an older brother of Krishna, Krishna Purvaja. So anyway, that's the pranam mantras that one can pray to Lord Balaram. And if you have the electronic database, you can type in Halagraha, show up that way. So when in the Krishna book, in the second chapter, which is the prayers of the Devas to Lord Krishna in the womb, it's described like this: the Lord declared to Yogamaya, my plenary expansion, Ananta Shesha, is within the womb of Devaki. So he came first in Devaki's womb. Prepare it, purify it for Krishna. So that's why he's like always the preliminary. Like in our minds, Balaram first and then Krishna. My plenary expansion, Ananta Shesha, is within the womb of Devaki, on account of being forcibly attracted to the womb of Rohini. He will be known as Shankarshan. So he was transferred, taken out. It looked as though Devaki had a miscarriage, but actually it was just sent to the womb of Rohini. He will be known as Sankarshana, meaning to draw near, plowing or, pulling, plowing. He will be known as Sankarshana and will be the source of all spiritual power, or bala, by which one can attain the highest bliss of life, which is called Ramana. Therefore, the plenary portion of Ananta will be known after his appearance as either Shankarshan or as Balarama. So the power that by which you get Ramana, spiritual bliss. Prabhupada goes on, in the Upanishad it is stated, Nayam Atma Balajinena Labhyana. The purport is that one cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Bala does not mean physical strength. No one can attain spiritual perfection by physical strength. One must have this spiritual strength, which is infused by Balaram or Shankarshan. Ananta or Shesha is the source of the power which sustains all the planets in their different positions. Materially, this sustaining power is known as the law of gravitation, but actually it is a display of the potency of Shankarshana. Balarama or Shankarshana is the source of spiritual power for the original spiritual master. You see, Prabhupada says this over and over again. Therefore, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is also the incarnation of Balaram, is the original spiritual master. The spiritual master is the representative of Balaram, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who supplies spiritual strength. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is confirmed that the spiritual master is the manifestation of the mercy of Krishna. So those are a couple of statements about Lord Balaram. So today's especially a good day to pray to Lord Balaram on his appearance day. He has two outstanding characteristics, very funny and very merciful. And there are many, many stories about Balaram, with the Jamuna River and the killing of the gorilla, and that are really nice. We don't have time to, but you can read these stories in Krishna book and other places. Let's see if I've got anything else. So we're supposed to start at 20. I stopped at 20 after that. So maybe you have any questions or comments? Or anything to add?
I have a question about the honey. I know
Oh, the honey, yeah. Well, that's another wife of Balaram. Varuni Devi is his wife. Honey is sweet, but you let it sit for a little while out in the water, ferments a little bit, and then it becomes mead, the ancient intoxicating beverage. So, Varuni Devi, yeah, glad you mentioned that. Yeah. So, I have a file with all the consorts of Balaram somewhere. Where is it? But anyway, so she is one of his wives, Varuni Devi.
So I know on Balaram's appearance day we're supposed to bring honey to Balaram.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Well, we used to do, there was this weird little drugstore in Philadelphia that had honey from all over different places. You get a bottle of honey from the black bees of Africa, and honey gathered from the wildflowers of Andalusia, and all kinds of honeys from all over the world in different places. And so we would buy these different special honeys on Balaram's appearance there. He would order them special. And, that store went out of business, of course, that CVS's and those kind of little drugstores don't exist anymore. But it was quite wonderful to give him all those different kinds of honey. And so that's how yeah.
Do you know who carved the Jagannath?
No, I don't know who did that exactly. Who? Do you know? What's her name?
Something like Jaitila.
Jatila, yeah.
It's not Jaitila like
So good Maheshwar knows.
Maheshwar knows, or Chanel knows, or give me her email address, but I respond.
Yeah, these were, I said, these were originally carved for this place we had on Henry Avenue. Henry Street, yeah, in Brooklyn. And then they discovered that Prabhupada daughter this big Radha Krishna deities, right, Ravindra, and they were coming, and then the deities were too big. It was Rukmini, actually, Rukmini. She was the Pujari. And I came to the temple to get the PTG. She said, "Have you seen the Philadelphia Jagannath deity yet?" That's what we did, you know. Have you seen that? She said, you know. And they were up on a big top of a wardrobe, and she took the cloth. Wow, you know. So we figured out how we could take them back. And actually, when we got to the temple. Sudamani came back by the train, and I came back with the car. And we arrived sort of at the same time at the temple. The whole temple went out on Harinam. We just said, and we wanted to install them.
Well, I wanted to just put them on the altar as surprise people. You said I think
Yeah. So they were sitting there when the devotees came. We uncovered, let's install them, Nayana. Let's install them. Nayana Balaram was our president. Let's install them. He says, you know, no, you need 3 Brahmins, and you know, we didn't have rabbinical initiation. We weren't initiated yet. That's right. It was that early. Yeah. So
this was before Prabhupada came.
Yeah. So when Prabhupada came, we got initiated.
They weren't installed until 1972.
Here.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, it was like chopping.
Yeah, in Philadelphia. No, so what happened was that Nayana Balaram, if you have time to the story, Nayana Balaram had a little Rath Yatra before by taking little Jagannath deities on a cart. They took them down by the Schuylkill River and pulled them in a little cart. No, we had a palanquin for them. That's right, they were on a palanquin.
The first year, they were actually in a cigar box.
Yeah, that was our, yeah.
And the next year, it was
They had a little palanquin, and we had a kirtan, and we distributed prasadam wherever happened to be there, down.
Were those your?
They were belonged to Subama.
Oh, not the Balaram either.
No. The Balaram I have was still worshiping. we got a couple of Shaligram Shilas. That one is named Dari Dar. So this was a company, but anyway. So then Nayana wrote to Prabhupada and explained to him about the Rath Yatra we had. He said, that's very nice. The next year you should have a cart with wheels, even if it's small. The next year I happened to be the temple president. I had gotten initiated, and only had first initiation. And Nayana Balaram had left. There was some politics and whatever. He didn't like being temple president anyway at all. So anyway, I ended up being the temple president. And I thought, the deities I brought back from New York, we had put in the closet, because we couldn't worship them yet. We needed 3 Brahmins. And so I showed them to I said, oh, Prabhupada said, so we can take them out and, let's make a cart for these Jagannath deities and take them out, even if it's a small one. And we ended up, they started making a cart in somebody's garage, and they realized it wouldn't get out. So they dismantled it, went in the backyard, and we had a pretty good sized cart. And so then I advertised to everybody, we're going to have a Rath Yatra. I got a parade permit. And I thought, well, we're just going to take them out, we'll have a Rath Yatra, because Prabhupada said to do it. And then we'll have to put them back in the closet, because you needed 3 Brahmins. By then, my wife and I had second initiation. So then our GPC, who was Rupa Nuga, came. And we advertised. There was a reporter there from the Philadelphia Bulletin. She was taking pictures of the deities and the bathing, because we thought we'd bathe them first, and then, But no, that's when Rupa Nuga came. He said, Rupa Nuga said, you can't have a Rath Yatra and just put these deities back in the closet. I thought, my God, he's going to call off the Rath Yatra. Vishnu Janan had come, you know, I mean, we had devotees. I didn't realize it was a party movement, and once you're going to have this Rath Yatra, the devotees were coming from all over to this Rath Yatra. There was no Rath Yatra in the East Coast. Yeah, there wasn't any Rath Yatra. This was the first one. So then Rupanuga came and he said, you can't put him back in the closet. So this brahmachari, his name is Parshvananda, he's going to stay with you. You now have 3 brahmanas. Install them. I said, how do you do that? He said, well, you bathe them and you have a kirtan. And that's what we did. We had just got some water, and we bathed them, and everybody circumambulated and poured water over them. We noticed they were a little dirty from being in the closet, and so now we got some soap and cleaned off that part.
I did it secretly, and it wasn't until later when someone tried to make it. It was just dirty on the back, all around the back, so no one noticed when we got it.
So that's how we started worshiping Jagannath. We didn't know much about it. We had one outfit. And you talk about merciful. He just came out of that closet, you know. and that's how we started. So then we for the long time, until you know, they had a New York Rath Yatra. We had the only Rath Yatra on the East Coast. And the big one when Prabhupada came here in '75, that's a whole other story. But when Prabhupada came here in '75, it was a huge Rath Yatra. There was a film of it. When Prabhupada, and that's when Prabhupada came to Philadelphia. He'd been to Philadelphia 3 times. On the way from Butler, Pennsylvania, New York, he stopped off at the University of Pennsylvania and gave a class. He came once when the devotees were at Temple University and did a program there at Temple University, and then he came for the Rath Yatra. Those were the 3 times he was in Philadelphia. Because to go to Butler, Pennsylvania and back, he had to change buses in Philadelphia. From New York.
He stopped on both ways?
I think so. Huh?
Well, he may have changed buses, but he also, after he visited the University of Pennsylvania, he referred to it as the Walnut District, and he said many devotees would come from Temple and Walnut District, and many have.
Yeah.
Drexel and Newton and Temple.
Yeah,
He said that he was
yeah, so I saw him when he was there. I didn't know who he was. I just saw this one looked to me like a Hindu monk or an Indian monk. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. But then later, when I saw a timeline when Prabhupada had come, so Damini and I had just gotten married in September of 65, and Prabhupada had come in October. On the way back from Butler to speak at the famous Indologist there who spoke in his class. And at that time, that was just the time Prabhupada was there.
Well, Ravindra had definitely seen him. He came up from class. We were living in our village, and he said, I saw the most amazing person. It's like shining like a light. This Indian man. He said, I want to be like him.
I was standing at the Lippincott Library. There's a big picture window where the file cards used to be in those days. They still had file cards. Looking out the campus, there's a statue of Benjamin Franklin, the founder of the university, and this old building, College Hall. I saw this Indian monk walking. You didn't see Indians in those days. You know, there were very few Indians. It was before they just changed the laws. You see. So a rare sight, and he was wearing monk's robes. And it looked to me like he was almost floating. You know, I just couldn't take my eyes off. I sure remember when I came back all excited about this. So that's a little bit of Prabhupada's history, and Balaram's history, and spiritual master, you know, Philadelphia. fix it. Local color.
Is it true that he sat on this exact grass house and something?
Did Prabhupada sit on this exact Vyasa-san?
Yeah, that was the problem. Actually, the devotee, Ravindra was supposed to go from the temple room, and then the day before Prabhupada arrived, this was just made for the cart. That's why it's not very elaborate, you know. And this was made just for the cart, and then we ended up using it.
The top part of the Vyasa-sana with the cedars was on the Rath Yatra cart. And Prabhupada, I think we still have the original cloth below there.
Some of it.
Some of it, you know, it got very old and we had to
It was,
recover.
I
But
think
this-
applications were distributed.
So that's why we have this kind of rinky-dink Vyasa-sana, because Prabhupada was sat on this one,
On the cart, on the rock, yeah.
on the Rath
Yeah, it
Yatra
was on
cart.
the
That was
cart,
the one.
and then because we didn't have one finished with the temple, we brought it in.
Yeah, somebody else was supposed to be making a fancy one, but it didn't work. So we had to bring this one inside and use it inside too. It was just made for the cart.
Oh, did Prabhupada sit on this one in the temple also? In that temple?
Yeah,
Both places.
both places. It was it.
And by the way, one of the last months I was here, I went down to Germantown where the temple was, and I met the fairly new owner of what was the temple there, and he said, anytime when they have a festival there, he was open to it.
Is that on Woodlawn Street or the shop?
Yeah, Woodlawn
Yeah,
Street.
Woodlawn
Huh?
Street.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've gone overtime now. So. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Balaram ki jai.